going on, friends? One thing that I'm always reading in the comments is, why do I have to put so much money into my Harley-Davidson to make it right, to make it faster? Harley-Davidson should just give us all those good parts right out of the factory and right off the showroom floor. Now, I don't disagree with that at all, but it really comes down to Harley-Davidson's business model, and honestly, they're not the only ones that do it. Now, number one, Harley-Davidsons are marketed as cruisers. That is basically what they are. Yes, we have in these later years seen some higher displacements and better output, which they really needed, and they're really keeping up with market demand when it comes to the cruiser segment. Well, number one, Harley-Davidsons are cruisers, and most people that buy a Harley-Davidson, they're not really interested in a sport bike. Now, yes, with the Milwaukee 8, we have seen some much needed and much improved horsepower and torque numbers, even so much that Harley-Davidson has even started disclosing their horsepower a little bit. And that's really honestly a big deal for Harley-Davidson as a whole. Now, the truth is, with most Harley-Davidson's motorcycles, most people really don't go past doing the stage one with the air cleaner, the exhaust, and a tuner on them. It really is very rare to see anything past that stage one. If we do see anything past the stage one, we might see a cam upgrade. But you go to your local bike night, that's generally what you're going to see. Now, as far as the power numbers going up from there, we see less and less bikes with really built motors. Most people get that stage one done, maybe a cam, and they move on to other accessories and cosmetic items. Now, as expensive as Harley-Davidson already is, the way they are now, could you only imagine what the price would be if, say, Harley-Davidson came out with their ST models, but they were going to give you that 135 cubic inch motor in it? You're looking at probably a $50,000, $60,000 motorcycle retail. Now, that doesn't exactly look good on a sticker price, but you get somebody in there paying 30 grand for a bike, then you get them to buy a $5,000, $6,000 engine, then they spend another $4,000 or $5,000 getting it installed, getting it tuned. You're breaking down that cost a little bit over time. Harley-Davidson's still making their money, and it's not that big of a sticker shock because you're kind of piecemealing it out a little bit. Well, it probably is a pretty good sticker shock if you're looking at your bank account, if you're actually building one of those, but honestly, most of the people that can do that, they're not really worried about it. So when it comes to Harley-Davidson engines, when they're stock right out of the factory with the cast cam plates, a lot of the parts that they have in them, they're perfectly fine for what they are. They can handle the stage one. You can put exhaust and air cleaner on them, get some better sound, a little more performance, maybe even a cam. And honestly, that stock bottom end and all the stock parts and stock internals, they're going to handle all that just fine. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now, with Harley-Davidson's business model, what they do is they make these other parts available to you, as well as the aftermarket as well. As I mentioned, stock internals are great for up to a stage one, maybe a stage two with a cam. But you start getting into big bore kits, high compression, that's when you really got to start looking into buying those cam plates, looking at getting rid of that automatic chain adjuster. You're making these changes to the engine, and you really start to, I guess you start to see the faults of what Harley-Davidson parts are normally good for a stock motor, but you start hopping them up, they start to push the limits when it comes to those performance parts, especially with aftermarket bolt-ons. Now, when it comes to selling you an expensive motorcycle right off the showroom floor that's got pretty decent parts for stock, this is absolutely nothing new. We can't just say Harley-Davidson is the only one that does this. Victory and Indian did it as well. Indian still does it now. Their bikes are as expensive or more expensive than a Harley-Davidson, plus Indian also offers their own factory performance parts with exhaust, air cleaners, tuners, big bore kits. They offer all of this. They have their own stage 1, 2, and 3 setups. Now, Harley-Davidson Indian weren't the only ones to do this. If you guys recall the metric cruisers back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I'll use the Yamaha Warrior for example. Yamaha kind of took the same kind of path. They offered the Warrior bone stock, but they also had their own kind of stage 1 and stage 2 modification kits that you could buy and have installed at the dealer and still retain the factory warranty. But as we all know, the metric cruisers, they really didn't keep up with Harley-Davidson, Victory, and now Indian, and they've really kind of faded from the scene, but that's a topic for a whole other video. Now, as I mentioned, Harley-Davidsons are expensive, and for them to go ahead and put all their best parts that they sell kind of, we would say, aftermarket through Screamin Eagle into a bike, it would just be stupid exponentially expensive. And as we know, new Harley-Davidsons are just ridiculously expensive. And if you paid attention to Harley-Davidson lately, they have really kind of abandoned their core customer, just kind of the average Joe. I don't know about you, but I couldn't go out and spend 20 grand on a brand new motorcycle. And that doesn't even get me into a touring bike. To get me into a touring bike, we're looking at almost 30 grand or more. That's a car. With Harley-Davidson, if you've noticed, they've really kind of turned the page on trying to get new riders into Harley-Davidson, and they're already focusing on people that ride Harley-Davidsons and that are continuing to buy Harley-Davidson. They pretty much got rid of all their entry-level motorcycles. I wouldn't even say Harley-Davidson has anything entry-level now. The new Sportsters, 90 horsepower at a minimum, and they're also well over 10 grand, closer to $15,000 anymore. Gone are the days of getting an 883, buying it cheap, and then you could convert that thing to a 1200 cheaper than you could buy the 1200 right off the showroom floor. It's really kind of sad to see that Harley-Davidson has really kind of abandoned trying to keep the cost down and get new riders into Harley-Davidson. The way they're going now, they're just focusing on the core customer, and that kind of worries me because that tells me that something big's getting ready to change. They're going to ride this pony till they can't ride it anymore, and basically the government, the emissions, forces the air-cooled engine out, and then everything's going to go water-cooled with a Harley-Davidson badge on it. That's just my opinion. That just seems to be where it's going to go. But fortunately for us, we can get out there, we can buy used bikes for exponentially less money. They have good proven motors in them, but that also leaves some unknowns of buying a used motorcycle, especially if you buy one that's already got performance modifications done to it. That's another thing that comes up in the comments is how do I know what I've got in the bike? And I hate to tell people the only way that you can really find out what's in there is you've got to completely tear it down, or you got to rely on what information that you got from the previous owner, the receipts, and who knows how old that is and how many times it's changed hands. So that's kind of the downside to that. But it is a heck of a lot cheaper, and you still get a lot more motorcycle buying a good used one versus a brand new one. So guys, that is definitely why Harley-Davidson does not offer all those high dollar parts right out the gate on a brand new bike. Honestly, it's going to be exponentially more expensive. Plus, Harley-Davidson, they make more money off of people that can afford things like that by selling them a brand new expensive motorcycle, then selling them all the Screamin' Eagle parts to go on it. Honestly, I think a lot of that, it should come on the bikes brand new, but I don't even want to imagine what a Harley-Davidson would cost if they put the Screamin' Eagle bearings and all the what they would consider accessories that make the bike actually what it should be, honestly, in my opinion, right out of the factory. It would just be too expensive, and they're already expensive enough, and I don't even really know how people are buying these things these days with the cost of a new bike. But anyhow, guys, what's your opinion on it? Do you think Harley-Davidson should put all the goods in the bike and sell it at a cheaper price? Because you know, they're probably going to make that up somewhere else. But let me know your opinions down in the comments. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If y'all enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But until next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars. I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.